Hello, hello, and welcome. This is Beverly Fells Jones, the Silver Fox of Consciousness. I am, as I have titled myself, an author, speaker, seminar leader, Mimi, gardener, and a whole other slew of things that I embrace. On this show, I talk about how to expand your world of thought, explore the world of positive thinking, law of attraction, and consciousness from many points of view. It is my intention to share with you information that will enlighten and empower you in your life. I'm here to encourage you to think in the positive and show that miracles can happen because I truly believe you have been given the power of the word and thought to create the life that you desire. It is so fantastic to be able to share this time with you, especially when I decide to start talking about things that are going on in this world. Now, I've shared with you stories from the manifestation book. I started sharing with you from Florence Scovel Shinn on manifesting and the things that you should do. But based, based on last week's podcast and now this week's podcast, I'm taking things from what's happening in the world today, and especially on things that I'm super interested in. So, I've heard the terms giving back, volunteering, fundraising, and many other ways to serve your community. I know lots and lots and lots of you have heard about the problems we had here in Texas last week because of the horrific storm and the non preparedness of the people who manage the electric grid. And just to set some things straight, wind and solar are less than 10% of the electricity given in Texas. The problem came when the gas lines froze up because gas kind of starts out liquid. I think they make it liquefied gas or whatever to put through the pipelines, however they do it. And the nuclear plants weren't ready, and the coal fire plants that their instruments froze up. Thankfully, and I am really truly grateful and thankful that my power never went out. So, shout out to those people that whatever grid I was on, it was grateful. But just to let you know, I'm always prepared. I had a kerosene heater always. I've had it since my son was born, and that was 30 some years ago. And then I had firewood. So I was prepared for lack of heat. I also did the things that we need to do is have the water dripping in the house to keep the water moving through the lines that help stop it. Yeah, so I did prepare for that, but I digress when I talk about many ways to serve your community. Well, there was a whole lot going on, and some of you already know I followed the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and the things that are going on with them and the things that they do because I truly appreciate the way they give back and the way they let people know about charities and that kind of thing. Now, I know automatically I'm turning a whole bunch of folks off, but just stay with me for those of you who are not familiar with them or you've been dealing with all the vitriol that's behind them. So, this week, they announced, well, most of us in squad land, Sussex squad land, knew they were not going to go back to the royal family. They were not going back into that, and these are my words, cesspool of hate and leaks and all of that kind of stuff. And so the palace issued a statement, but one part of their statement really upset me and a ton of other people, truly to say. And they said, okay, let's see. I interpreted the statement from them when they said stepping away from the work of the royal family is not possible to continue with the responsibilities and duties that come with a life of public service. Let me read that to you again. Stepping away from the work of the royal family, it is not possible to continue with the responsibilities and duties that come with a life of public service. To me, that was an insult. Well, they were trying to insult them and say, well, if you don't want to be part of the royal family, there's no way you can do public service, or there's no way you can do public service in the Queen's name, or anything like that. Whatever it is, the world interpreted it that unless you were royal, you couldn't do public service. So, of course, the PR team for the Duke and Duchess came back, and basically, in essence, their statement was, we can all live a life of service. Service is universal. So they took it the same way I took it, and a lot of other people were. It's like, if you're not royal, you can't do this, you know. So this podcast is really going to explore that idea that no matter who you are or the family within you were born, so um, doesn't matter, because what you give out will come back. And this is part of our world of manifesting and showing gratitude and thanksgiving. So I'm not going away from my topic of being magnificent manifestors and being directors of your life. But it caused me to want to do some exploration. As an American citizen, I can't seem to wrap my head around the concept of aristocracy, lords, ladies, counts, dukes, king and queen. You know, last week I did the thing on titles, and I'll put that at the end so that you can link back and listen to that if you haven't. So even when I look back in history, the main theme I get in this whole thing is power and control. Back then, way back then, even when they were, hordes and wearing sheepskin and not feathers, but skins and whatever, and having axes and makeshift swords and sticks and even whatever. A leader, a person who found themselves a leader, people thought of them as a leader, was able to convene an army to follow them. And then they'd go off and pillage and overpower the weak and people who were quietly living their lives. I'm going, really? And yes, they were fighting other leaders to take over their peasants and subjects. Remember like that? Because even over in England, it's the Queen's subjects. It's the give the Queen a curtsy. No. And I think that's what makes us a little different from people who go over there and it's like you're supposed to curtsy to the Queen. Why? She's not my queen. I am not her subject. She may be billionaire and got a whole lot of money more than me, and she may have all those drafty castles and all that antiques and everything in there, which is really impressive. I really love to see the art, but it doesn't make them better than me. But really, to me, it is about control. And so speaking of last week, and speaking of talking about titles and all that, uh, be sure to take a look at that video. And while you're here, please hit the like button and, if you are so inclined, subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified when I decide to upload a new video. I would truly appreciate that. And share with those that you think would be interested in what I have to say. Right now, I'm just on YouTube. I was on Spreaker. I've got plenty of podcasts on Spreaker, and it goes to iTunes and those kind of places. I'm going to see about getting on some other platforms. But now to continue. In this 21st century, we still have this titled gentry. Now, as I do it, and I've written notes, but I just thought, in fact, we got those titled gentry, but a lot of them are poor. I mean, a lot of them, they may have these big estates, but the estates are falling apart. I mean, I've been watching things, how they've had to change what they do, and they've had to open it up to tourism, where one castle is now a bed and breakfast, and you're treated like a king or queen and waited on, and all that kind of stuff costs. But it's there because it is expensive in order to maintain all those grounds and things. Because way back when, I kind of half watched Downton Abbey. Way back then, the gentry had all this money coming in. And I really don't understand. I haven't really looked in how they got the money, but they invested it and did all that kind of stuff. And they had the lands, and then they had the peasants working the lands, and then the peasants had to pay so much. But they had upstairs maids and downstairs maids, and I'm watching, even, well, if you're on Netflix, Bridgerton and a few others, you understand that the aristocracy was way up. They had all the money, and then, I mean, this one I'm watching, and she was making £2 a month. £2 a month. Now, this was like in 1800s, and she had room and board, she had a room and food and that kind of stuff, but £2 a month? I don't know what that would equate to. But those who were born into this were raised with an unconscious bias. They tend to look down on anyone who has not been raised in their circle. So it's like the old money, new money I talked about in the last podcast. Some people say, well, why are you still on this subject? Well, it's still about mindset and how you view the world. To some who have always been rich, with seemingly unlimited funds, poor people are there because they're lazy. Never mind the fact that the people in their employ are paid pitiful wages. The poor look at the rich as having the life and are normally upset that the rich have so much more than they need. There are two perspectives and no meeting in the middle. And so therefore, one side has a view and another side has another view. And therefore, there's this thing called unconscious bias, because you have a view of the world from where you sit, but you have no concept of what it's like to live in the world of a regular working class person. Many of you have no idea what it's like to be a black woman in this day and age. You have no idea what it was like to be a black woman, and I may say smart, As a teacher in the computer industry, I was like an anomaly. I would love to watch people's faces as they walked in the classroom and realized I was the instructor. It was hilarious sometime if it wasn't so sad. But we have unconscious biases. I've had unconscious biases, and I've had to check it at the door and say, what is it like for this other person? And this week, Harry and Meghan informed the Queen they would not be returning as working royals. And personally, like I said, knew it last year when they left. There was no coming back, right? And there have been some interesting things that have come back and come out. Well, it appears that they announced they're having a new baby, right? And they talk about, well, why'd they let it know if they wanted privacy? Well, come to find out that the tabloids had a bounty out for Meghan's stomach. Bounty. First one, y'all got to get a picture of her. See if she's pregnant. We got to announce that she's pregnant first. And so they wound up announcing her pregnancy, and so it took money out of their pockets, which I'm happy about. But the key, I really think, here is that in stepping away from the royal family, they have never stepped away from their patronages and their charities. They still give. And in fact, they give to charities that they're not a patron for. So I said we talked about the fact that here in Dallas we had the storm. Well, they found out about this women's shelter for domestic violence. It's shelter for women that's suffering from that. And that they had water damage, pipes had broken, their roof had a problem. And so they gave them money to help. The announcement was they gave them money that will replace their roof, help them with their payroll, as well as immediate needs. Well, there are those who say, well, if they're going to do this, they need to do this inside private. They did. They didn't announce that they had given this money. The charity did. The charity let it be known because it was a huge, because, if you know commercial roofs, an apartment building roof, we know it's going to be 30 or more $1,000 to replace that roof. But the charity announced it, but the naysayers were, oh, they're just trying to be publicity. They just need to, and where'd they get the money from? How are they paying for it? I mean, it's just nastiness. I'm sorry, guys. But I'm getting off topic. It was the idea that they were in service. But not only that, when the Sussex squad heard about the fact that they had donated, I'm telling you, there were more donations. As many of the squatties said, look, I only got $5 or $10, but I'm going to give you $5 or $10. Some have given a lot more. I donated. And there was a way that you could give a straight donation, or you could go to their link on their wish list on Amazon and get them the things they need. And I took a look at what their needs were. And some of them were to help set up the apartment with a toaster and plates and silverware and measuring cups and, things you need to set up an apartment. And then there were things like food. So many of them, they say, hey, I got my Prime, I can do this, I'll send food, I'll send this. Well, I haven't heard how much they have garnered, but they did do a thank you from all 50 states, and I bet you they will be saying internationally, because we come and show up. Anyway, so I'm here looking at my notes going, okay, what did you do? All right. So, service is universal. It's not just for a special family. It's not just the royalty that can do patronages. I mean, I think of patronages and I think of people who help an artist and say, okay, I'm going to give you a place to live, I'm going to a place to do your work, I'll be your patron for a year. Or a gallery said, we'll carry your pictures and, we'll take a certain percentage. All right. So service is universal. There is nothing royal about doing that. These people, in my mind, with that statement, and I don't think it was the queen that did that statement, I think it was the courtiers in the palace, all those people that I think actually runs the royal family, that put that statement out. And the queen kind of looked at it and she didn't really see. If she had read it out loud, she might have heard what it said. But it was really snappy and mean because right after that they said, these are the things that they will not get back. They have to get that are returning to the queen. So fine, right? But we want to make sure that you understand that no matter what your station in life, you can give. When you believe you are superior to others, it will show up. It really will. And I thought about a time when I was working at IBM and I'm a troubleshooter, and a gentleman said to me, I applied at IBM for a job. They didn't hire me. And I really do not know what I answered. I think I just looked at him like, okay, no response. I just gave him no response. I knew what it meant to be. It's like, well, how'd you get hired? And I didn't. I don't know. You better ask the person that didn't hire you, right? You need to look at who you are and make the decision of your importance. Goes back to last week's podcast again. You cannot. I learned very young. I chose not to fight those who had an unconscious bias against me. It showed. Believe me, it showed in the way they treated me, the words they said, the things they tried to do. A couple of them tried to get me fired. That backfired on them. All right. But understand the way you react, and I don't like using the word react, it's the way you respond. You can respond nasty, or you can respond with facts, just like Harry and Meghan did when they said that service is universal and that we all can live a life of service. Yes, it was to me. Yeah, I'm telling you. Just because we're not royal anymore doesn't mean that we can't be of service. And so, you got to know who you are. You got to know your self-worth. You have to know what it is you bring to the table. Now, I have decided years ago, there are times when I can volunteer, right? I can go out and volunteer. But I'm not a good volunteer. I can come out for a day and serve food, or I worked at the food pantry a day and helped distribute food. I've done a number of things. I was working at the library for a while and doing brain games for seniors and working in that area. But It just didn't work out for me because, one, I just have a life that I do multiple things, and a lot of times I was on the road. But what I found is that I put aside money so that when a charity needs something, I can do a donation like this. When I was working, I did the monthly donation to the United Way, and I stopped doing that when I started seeing how they divvied up the money, and then they finally allowed us to say, well, here's where my money would go. So I had more control. So I found that by being able to give or donate food to the food bank, I could be of service, and so could you. Even if you don't have much money, maybe you have the time and the fortitude, or it's not fortitude, but that way of being able to interact with people that would make you good as a volunteer and working for some of these organizations. This is the way that you show your gratitude. This is the way you give back. This is the way that as you're manifesting and you're showing gratitude for the things that you receive in your life. I know this is off from all the ways of, well, you got to do this. I teach you the Think and Grow Rich and, Napoleon Hill steps for the things you need to do to get rich. But you also need to give back. You also need to be grateful for everything that you have, no matter where you are in life. There's got to be a way that even if during this pandemic, if you had a way to knock on your neighbor's door to make sure they're okay, and you were baking bread and you baked the extra loaf and you took it over to them, that's being of service. So you don't have to give thousands of dollars to be of service. You can give $1. You can share on your social media about some place that is in need of help and they're linked to their donate button. For a while there, I was contributing to an organization that dug wells. I gave them $20 a month. I did that. I committed to a year of giving them $20 a month. Shelter Box is another organization that provides shelters, and I don't know if they're coming into Texas for people whose homes have been so devastated and water breaks and things, whether they're going to be coming into Texas. But I donated to them. I made that a fundraiser for my birthday. Almost said what age I was going to be. Anyway, for my birthday. And I raised quite a bit of money for them. And I supported them again for a year. So you can choose how you want to give back and how you want to volunteer. But we can all live a life of service because service is universal. Thank you for listening today. I really appreciate you being here. So in the meantime, please hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, hit the bell, and please share this show with your friends and family so that they can learn how to be the best that they can be. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions, send me an email at GOCSEE Beverly @gmail.com. Be sure to put my podcast show or questions in the subject line so that I know who it's from. We all get all these junk mail sometime, and I don't want to miss your message. Anyway, thank you again, and I will see you in the next video. As you have believed, let it be done to you, and it is so.